Hi, welcome back to my channel, Scale Model Kit Review Studio. Welcome back to another installment of the DeAgostini build, the 1/6 scale Ford GT500 Mustang. And I said it, 1/6 scale. It's the largest car out there in the part work realm. So if you haven't done so already, head over to DeAgostini and subscribe to this build today. I put a direct link down below. Click on that link. Lets DeAgostini know you're watching my videos. Let's get started. Welcome back to Scale Model Kit Review Studio, and welcome back to another installment of the DeAgostini Collectibles Build Your Own Ford Mustang. This is the 1/6 scale Mustang. It's a beautiful car. It's the Shelby GT500 from 1967. I am currently working on pack number 12. In pack number 12, I received 5 more stages, 49 through 53. And this is just a fantastic build. So in this pack, we're going to be concentrating mostly on the front suspension and some of the steering components and so forth. So like I was saying earlier, this build's much like the 1/8 scale version of this car that's out there, but this is a lot larger and more detailed, obviously. Let's look at the magazine here first. So just to give you an idea of what's inside the magazine, they do give us lots of history on the Ford Motor Company, and in this case the Shelby story starts us off, the Mustang concept car. Fantastic there. And then we get right into our instruction, well illustrated and easy to follow, as you can see. And then we get into the Ford story, the Ford GT at Daytona. Fantastic there. And great. So there you go. That is how your magazine looks, and you'll receive a magazine with every stage of the parts that you build. Let's look at the parts that came with this pack. 49, we have some of the components for the front wheel well arches. 50, we have the steering components. 51, front suspension components. 52, more front suspension components. And 53, the sway bar for the front suspension. Let's get started. Let's look at the build instructions for stage 49. Front fender guard panels. And these are the panels we received with this. They're going to simply get installed on the front of the chassis. And these are the mud guards. A couple of screws will hold them in on each side. And that's pretty much it. Let's look at the parts that came with this stage. Here's a close-up of those skirts. They are both made of plastic, and they are identified with a left and a right on the bottom there next to my thumbs, and DSO2 screws. Both fender panels are installed with the DSO2 screws. You can see right there. I did use some 3-in-1 oil to help it along, but that's what they look like on both sides. Check the front edge to make sure it is down all the way. Also, there's a lip there. And the other side also there. And that completes stage 49. Looks great. Let's head over and get started on stage 50. Stage 50, I'll be working on the steering rods, and this is very familiar to me. It's very similar to the 1/6 scale version of this car. I'll take you through that step by step, show you what I did with that. That's the final result right there, everything together. So let me get the parts and I'll be right back. Here's those parts. Here's the steering rods. We have DS25 screws, and all these parts are metal. Very nice finish to them. We have a little ratchet mechanism for the steering itself. I'll be using 3-in-1 oil to assemble all this together. First step, I'm going to put these two rods together. I am using some Vaseline, and I put the Vaseline on this race right here all the way around, just a very light coat, and this is going to turn over just like that, and that's how it should look. Very large DS25 screw with a flange on it goes in it next. I did use some 3-in-1 oil. Looks good. Next we turn that over like that. Next, these two rods go together here just like that, same as I did before with the Vaseline and the 3-in-1 oil for the screw. And that's how that looks there. Next we take this one right here, this rod in, and we insert it from underneath just like that. And we'll put our screw in from the top. And that's what that should look like. That completes stage 50. Let's head over and get started on stage 51. Stage 51, I'll work on the suspension and arm brackets. Very cool here, very similar, like I said, to the 1/8 scale Mustang. Very easy to follow, and once again I'll be using 3-in-1 oil for all the screws that go into metal. And let me get the parts, I'll be right back. Here's the parts for 51. DSO1, DSO2, DS25. Here's part of our steering mechanism. Both of these parts are plastic, and then these brackets themselves are made of metal. Next I'll install the steering cylinder onto our steering mechanism here, and that's simply going to go straight down on that, and a DS25 screw will go into that. Next we'll take our pitman arm, put that into the steering shaft there, and that's how that should look, just like that. Making sure that's over the top of that. Go ahead and mount this to the chassis next. And the steering mechanism I showed you earlier, it's going to mount to these two lugs right here. And it's mounted to both of those lugs right there. Put two screws into this, and there you go. Two DSO1 screws were put in to hold all that in place. You can see how it rotates. I'm going to go ahead and tape up this other end just to hold it in place. And there you go. That completes stage 51. Let's head over and get started on stage 52. Stage 52, I'll begin on the suspension arms. There's the parts on the left. Pretty simple here. They're also known as swing arms. We'll follow the instructions here as we go along. Hook everything together. Let me get the parts, I'll be right back. Here's the parts for 52. Here's the two swing arms, the arm holders, and the pins for those. The pins are metal. The rest of these are plastic. DS12, PS11, PS12, and DS25. Before we begin, you're going to want to do some preparation to install all these components up front. We're going to be putting some pressure on the screws as they go in. We want to use some 3-in-1 oil for the screws that go into metal. You want to support the back end of the car away from the fuel filler on top of the tank. So, put a box or something back there, which I've done, to protect that fuel filler because it will contact your work mat. The front here, we're only supported on the front with these mud guards that we put in. And use your hand to support the bottom of the chassis as you're putting in your screws and such, and that will help you along. Now I'm using two types of screwdrivers, that is. I'm using two types. The PH1 screwdriver, which is larger, it helps me drive those screws in a little bit better, and a PH0 screwdriver, which is my normal go-to screwdriver. These are the Wera screwdrivers, and I put a link in the description below. And then for those metal pins we're going to insert, get yourself some good nylon pliers, and this is the PH200. I'll put a link down below for that also. Alright, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in these swing arms, and they are marked with a left and a right, so I am currently working on the left side of the car. And we're simply going to insert that into this area right here, install our pins for that, and drive the pin through the swing arm on the front here. And you'll note there's some serrations on the end of that pin. And there we go. Insert it all the way. That looks good. I'm going to go ahead and do the other side. I'll be right back. Both swing arms are in. That's how they look. Very good. Next, I need to turn the chassis over and install a screw that goes on the other side of this. And I'll show you that. PS11 screws go into these. I put the one on the other side already. That's good there. Next, I'm going to install these brackets here, and they go in from the other side, and the screws get put in on this side. And that's what that bracket looks like. It has a spot for a screw and an alignment pin on the other side. Line that up. And put your screw in on the back side. Okay, so a PS12 goes into that, and that is a tiny screw. You can see that right there. I'm using a PH00 screwdriver for that. And that's how that looks there. And the other side is done. You can see how tiny that screw is. Next, I retrieved my wheel and tires. Those are going to get mounted next. And you'll note here on the back side you have two mounting pins right there, and they're going to insert into that area and that area on top. And we'll put our screws in. We'll be doing both sides the same way. Both screws are installed here. You can see that right there and right there. So our swing arm, that is the DS12 screw. It has a flange on it. I used some 3-in-1 oil. And then the tie rod itself, that is the DS25 screw, the chrome with the flange. Same thing, I used 3-in-1 oil for that. I did both sides. And you can see that there. Right there and right there. So at this point you want to be careful with your suspension. It's only held together on the bottom side. And there you go. Overall view of what we just assembled here on the front end. That completes stage 52. Fantastic there. I really enjoyed this. Let's head over and do the final stage for this video, stage 53. Let's look at the final stage for this video, stage 53. Stabilizer bar and steering gearbox. Looks pretty simple there. Working on the gearbox, that's a lot of fun normally. And you can see that the gearing and all that goes in there. I'll be putting some of my grease in there that I like using, the AW grease from Tamiya. That works really good. Let me get the parts, so I'll be right back. Here's the parts for 53. Let's see there. DSO2, DSO3, PS09, and DS17. Here's our anti-sway bar. It's made of plastic. The brackets for that, 2 brackets. And here's our gearbox housing made of metal. The cover for that. And all of our metal gearing. We have this right here made of brass. That's very nice. And this piece here was already put together. Brass and regular metal. And then another gear which is also made of metal. And like I said, I'll be using my AW grease for all these items inside of the gearbox. Alright, so I'll be installing the stabilizer bar, or the anti-sway bar as I like to call it, and it's going to go underneath these swing arms. There's mounting holes for them. DSO9 screws will hold that in place. Just like that. And there you go. Screws in place, holding that side in. Same on the other side. Right there. Now on the left side, we're going to mount our little brackets here. This has a number 1 on the bottom of it. Has a pin that lines it up. And we'll put our screw into that. DSO3 screw goes into that. Do the same on the other side. This would be the right side. DSO3 screw again. This is the right side. And that was the left side. Next I'll assemble the gearbox, and this is our housing here. We're going to install a gear onto that post right there. And the gear I'm talking about is this free gear that we got. And notice it has this lip that sticks out on the end. That's going to go down just like that onto the gear. First I want to put some of my grease on there, and I'll insert that gear down on top of that. There we go. That looks good there. Next, a DS17 screw goes into this. And that's how that looks there. Looks good. Next, I'm going to take this gear here. I put some grease on it already, and it's going to go in that large hole in the middle there. Make sure it's through all the way, and that's how that looks. Everything looks greased up there. Looks good. Next, I'm going to go ahead and put this gear on. I have some grease on it already, and that's going to go just like that. And then we'll put our lid down on top of it, our cover. And I'll go ahead and put my cover down on top of that. Put a little grease on the areas that hit the brass part. And that's going to go right down on top. Just like that. DSO2 screws go into that. And there you go. Both screws are in and tight. Everything looks great there. Next I need to mount the gearbox to the chassis, and that's the gearbox here. It's going to mount to this and this, and right here and right there. So it's simply just going to go down on it just like that. And we'll put our screws into it on the other side. 2 DSO2s go into this. Both DSO2 screws are in and tight, and you can see how the gears are meshed together here. That gear that was sticking out will actually turn everything here for us later on. So I don't want to put any stress on the, do not take and try to actuate this stuff by hand. But there you go. Gearbox is installed. Let's look at it from the other side. And there it is from the other side. Looks great. And there you go. That completes stage 53. Got all the lower part of the front suspension done here. We're going to be working on the upper suspension here in the future, but it looks great. We got the steering box in, and that looks great. I'm having a blast building this. Remember, this car is only available through DeAgostini Collectibles. I put a link down in the description below. Head over there and subscribe to this today if it's still available for subscription. Remember, it's 1/6 scale, and it's only available from DeAgostini. It's a fantastic build, and I'm having a blast doing it. If you like my content, please subscribe to my channel and smash that like button. Happy modeling, everybody, and take care.